Grr, arg.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mixtape Podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies. Oh, we review movies, sorry, from a screenwriter's perspective. I will be your host. My name is Dean Stark, and I'm joined by my co host, Marcela Inestroza. And up this week, we have a little independent movie called The Box, released in 2009, directed by Richard Kelly, written by Richard Kelly, based on the short story Button Button by Richard Matheson. And if you haven't seen this movie, I would say go and see it. It's by the same guy that wrote and directed Donnie Darko, which is an absolute masterpiece. So if you haven't seen that, go and see that. And if that piques your interest, come over and see this little movie and then listen to our review. But for those of you who have seen it, just a reminder of what this movie is actually about. A couple faces a dilemma when they receive a mysterious box that, if opened, gives them $1 million. So the opening scene is basically it's writing on the screen and it says Langley classified to Martin Teague, NSA Deputy Director. Resuscitation of patient Arlington James Stewart confirmed by hospital personnel. Patient was released from burn unit on the morning of July 24th to undisclosed location. Patient has constructed a device of unknown purpose. Design specifications confirmed by Mars Project. Patient is delivering the device to private residences. So we start off and in Virginia, 1976. Sorry, I was going to say title card, but I forgot. Went out of my mind. Title card, Virginia, 1976. We meet Norma. And we meet Arthur, and they're a married couple, and they're sleeping when the doorbell rings in the middle of the night. Norma opens the door to see a almost like a black Cadillac driving away slowly and a box left on the porch. She picks up the box, which is wrapped, and she goes inside, places it on the table, and we meet their son, who's about 10 years old. His name is Walter. Arthur, the husband, opens it, and it's another box with a clear dome on the top, and under the dome is a red button that can be pushed. A letter comes with it saying, Mr. Stewart will call on you at 5 p.m. Now, we get a little bit of a montage after that, and they're a loving family, and Norma and Arthur absolutely are devoted to each other. They love each other. They're just a perfect match, and they love their son. Like, they're just basically the all-American perfect suburban family. There's no toxicity. There's no issues. And that there is a point to kind of showing that, and then it'll come back around. So, Marcelo, the one that had not seen this movie before, what did you think of the opening scenes?
I really, really loved the opening scenes to this movie. I loved the sort of mission statement, or sort of the mission statement of the movie, by having the text at the beginning. And I also love the 1970s aesthetic of this film. I love the fact that the writer sets up the family as an all-American family, as people trying to do the right thing. And as this movie goes along, the situation that the movie presents them with shows you how a good family like this can get corrupted by the choice that they're given in this movie. And I really, really loved seeing this good family be turned into an absolute nightmare because of the choice that they made in this movie by pushing the button. So that was the most captivating thing for me about this movie.
So Norma is at work and she's a teacher, and one of the students, who's a bit of a dick, notices that she walks with a limp, and he asks, can we see your foot? And she kind of sits there, and you can see that, and Norma is played by Cameron Diaz, by the way. You can see that she's just really uncomfortable. She doesn't want to do it. And then he goes, what, are you embarrassed or something? And so now she kind of has to do it. So, she builds her confidence up, and she goes, all right. So she takes her shoe off, and we see that she's got, the only toe she's got is her pinky toe. All the other toes are gone. So it's a quite kind of deformed foot. In her class, she has a quote that she's quoting from the text that she's teaching the class. And I thought that I actually love this quote. She says, hell is other people seeing you for who you truly are. So when she showed the class her foot, she basically stepped into that quote. And I love the way Richard Kelly wrote this. It just from the short story, but he's expanded it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And you feel sorry for Norma because she has to live with this kind of deformity, even though nobody can see it. She limps, and so people kind of look at her as she's walking down the hall and stuff. So, anyway, thoughts.
I love that scene because of the way that the writer and the director set it up. Like Dean said, the quote basically reaffirms the way that Cameron Diaz's character feels about herself. And at first glance, I was like, what does this scene have to do? What does this scene in particular, what does this scene do to push the story forward? And I found it very, very odd that Cameron Diaz would give in to that student's demands. It was very the behavior of the civilians in this movie really, really disturbed me until the director and the writer sort of unveiled what they were doing in the third act. So that was very frustrating for me. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? I mean, I think I know what you guys are doing, but but it's very uncomfortable and it's very
Mm.
unnerving. So I found that very, very affecting on multiple levels.
I think the reason she did that is she wanted to show the class you don't have to be embarrassed. Even though she wanted to prove a point to say, listen, I've got this. It is what it is. Even though she was embarrassed. Right? I
Right.
think that's why she kind of did
Right.
it. Norma is informed by the principal of the school that her son's tuition discount is being revoked next semester, meaning she's not going to be able to pay for his education. So that's number one. That's number one. And that'll come back. Norma gets home. And when she gets home, the doorbell rings and it's Arlington Stewart. Remember, he said he would call on her at 5 p.m. and it's exactly 5 p.m. Arthur is not home. Walter, I don't know if Walter's home. And his face, the first thing you notice about Arlington is his face is half gone. And it's actually a really, really cool effect that they've used. So they sit in the kitchen on either side of the box, and Arlington pulls out a key and unlocks the clear dome. And he says, if you push the button, two things will happen. First, someone somewhere in the world who you don't know will die. Second, you will receive a payment of $1 million. He opens his briefcase, proving to her that he actually does have the money, and he gives her $100 as a gift. And he also says that she has 24 hours to make a choice. Okay. What did you think of that scene? And what would you think if someone said that to you? Push a button and someone somewhere you don't know is going to die and you'll get $1 million. What would you think?
I absolutely love the setup of this scene, and I absolutely love the way that the writer and the director present it. And I love the fact that it's just so weird and it's just so macabre. I love the fact that Franklin Langella's character, half of his face is, distorted, and we don't find out why it's distorted until later on in the movie. But specifically, the choice that our main characters are given in this movie, I think, is a great way to hook the audience, and it's a great question to hang over the main characters in the film. Now, would I push the button? Fuck yeah, I would. Because I am not because I don't
There
because
you have
I
it.
listen, yeah. I don't have a moral center for people that I don't know. And it drove me crazy how Cameron Diaz's character and her husband's character were constantly trying to do the right thing in this movie. If they just would have listened to Stewart is his name, right? Uh,
Arlington Stewart.
Yeah. If they just would have listened to Arlington Stewart and pushed the button and not done anything, not called the police, not written his license plate down on a piece of paper, they would have been fine. If the writer and the director didn't construct the characters the way that they did, there would be no movie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Uh, so with that being said, I do like the fact that the writer and the director constructed these characters with this internal internal dread about pushing the button and the ramifications of pushing the button or not pushing the button. So I thought that it was set up very, very well. And I thought that it was a joy watching these characters mull over this one decision and the consequences that it could not only have for them, but the consequences that it could have for people that they don't even know.
So let me ask you this. If I said I'll give you $1 million, but you have to go out and kill someone, you have to go out and stab someone, pick someone, and kill them. Yes? No?
How would how would I have to do it? Face to face
Yeah,
or
face to face. You have to kill someone face to face. You have to stab them. You have to kill them. What would you do? Yes? No? You don't know them. You don't know them.
um how
No, there's
I
no if, and, or buts.
okay.
It's just would you or wouldn't you?
For me it would be easier to do it not facing the person.
No, 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 no. No, no, no. See, that's my point. You say
That's
you
your
will push the button because you don't give a fuck, but you're not willing to go out and kill someone face to face, right? But it's the same shit. So you're killing someone, you just don't want to do it face to face,
yeah.
even if it's like a
Yes.
kid or a baby or like a
Well,
grandmother that's taking care of her grandkids, right? Which is a conversation they do have
okay.
later, which is important.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, but here okay. I would be comfortable killing someone if it wasn't face to face, but here's another question. How many people die every day of things out of my control?
That's true, but this is in your control. That's my
Right.
point,
Right.
right? So if you're going to
Mhm.
ask me, I wouldn't push the button because I don't want to be responsible for taking a life away from someone I don't know. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're bringing to the world. I have no idea. So that I doesn't matter if I know them or not. I'm not God. I can't take a life because I want money. And you see in the movie what the writer and director is actually trying to say with the movie. It's like people have choices, and if you're willing to kill
Mhm.
someone for money, there might have to be some like reevaluation. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't do it, but there are a lot of people that would do it. So,
Yeah. Look. Where this movie goes, I wouldn't have pushed the button. Look, I say that I would have. I say that I would push the button in the moment, but if I would have known all the facts, there's no way
well,
that I would have pushed
well,
the
yeah,
button.
because it would have been at your demise. That's why, and that's the
Yeah,
only reason why, and that's a selfish reason, right? So it's like, well, I'm not going to
yeah,
die. Of course not. I'll kill someone, but I don't want to die.
yeah. But I look. At the end of the day, I think this movie poses an excellent question about humanity
Mm.
and what they would do when they're given an impossible choice.
Yes, yes, and that's what I like about it.
And that's the most brilliant thing about this movie at the
Yes.
end of the day. It you know?
Yes, you can have conversations with anybody on the street about this question. And I think it
Yeah.
would be super interesting. Anyway, moving on. So Arthur, the husband, we learn that he works at NASA as an engineer, and he's applied to the astronauts program, but he's rejected, and he's devastated because his job doesn't really pay enough money. So we've got the money thing coming in again. It was his dream, and now he doesn't know what he wants to do. But he's also making a prosthetic foot for Norma, so she doesn't have to limp. And it's something that goes along through the film, but I like it because it shows how much he really loves her, and he really doesn't want people to like gawk at her, and it just makes it all the more heartbreaking by the time the end of the film comes.
Yeah, I listen, I love how the writers basically double down how pure of heart our main characters are. Norma played by Cameron Diaz and her husband played by James Marsters. It's a really great way to endear the two main characters to the audience so that way when they start going through the shit, which they will in this movie, you actually feel for them. So it's great character building from the writer and the director of this film. It's done so well.
Yeah, it is. And it's James Marsden, by the way. James Masters is Spike. Yay,
Yeah.
Spike!
Yay, Spike! Spike
Yay,
for the
Spike
win,
from
right?
Buffy! Anyway,
Yeah, Spike for
it's
the win.
fucking close though. I actually thought it was James
Yeah.
Masters too. So there you go.
Cyclops. It's
Yeah,
Cyclops.
yeah, it's Cyclops. That's it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Arthur gets home and Norma explains to him about the box and about the guy whose face is half gone. But Arthur doesn't really believe it. He's like, oh, so you press the button, we get $1,000,000, someone dies. Yeah, okay, whatever. They talk about it for a bit. And Arthur says there's no upside for this guy in the deal. So why is he doing it? There's got to be something in it for him. And then Arthur decides to open the bottom of the box and opens it, and there's nothing in it. There's nothing. And he says there's no transmitter, there's no radio. Even if they pushed the button, there's no way in the world he would know that they pushed it. This is a joke. And I love that scene because he's right. He shows, we see there's nothing in the box. When you press it, it's like a kid's toy. Nothing will happen, but we'll see what happens when they do press the button. And that makes it even more weird. Anyway, thoughts?
I really, really like the way that the writer and the director kept the mystery of how the button just looks like a kid's toy and how it doesn't have like this how it doesn't have this light up effect going. When they push the button, it goes, you win $1,000,000, right? And I love the simplicity of the button, and I love the way that the button is designed. I think that it's a really, really great way to sort of back up the way that James Marsters does it. I I think it's a really
James
shit.
Masters.
I think sorry. I think I think it's a really great way to back up the main thrust of this movie, that the offer isn't real
Mm,
because it's just a button,
hmm.
right? If you are presented with this choice in real life, you would think that this button would have, smoke and mirrors, and that it would actually do something. But the
Hmm.
fact that it does nothing makes it seem more fake.
Hmm. Yep.
And that's just such a great choice by the filmmakers of this movie to do that.
Yeah, I thought so too. So Norma's having a discussion with Arthur and she says she has to postpone her foot surgery because they can't afford it. Again, that's the third thing that like they don't have money for. So it really shows that they really actually do need the money because everything around them financially is falling apart. So they're sitting opposite the box and they're just staring at it, and Arthur says like, what if pressing it kills a baby? And then Norma says, what if it's someone on death row? And it's a really good conversation to have because you don't know. You don't know. Like, what if, like Marcelo, what if you press the button and my best friend who you don't know dies? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who it is. And I think it's such a big question. Like, if I press the button, what if your cousin dies? I don't know him. Like, do you know, like, you just, that's why I like this. Cause it's like, you can have so many conversations about it. But it's right. It could kill a baby or it could kill some drug dealer. Like if I knew who it was going to take out, different story. Different story. Do you think it would change your mind if you knew who it was?
Yeah, when it came to that part of the movie, I actually thought about people that I know in my life, and I thought about individuals that you've told me about, and that really changed my mindset on my original thought of being presented with an offer like this. After that was said, I'm like, no, I'm not going to push the button because I don't know if a family member of mine or someone who I care about, someone in their lives would be affected. So that really changed my mindset, and it was just really, really shocking to me that a movie could make me feel that way, because before, like I said, I would have pushed the button without hesitation, but that moment in this movie made me really think about it and go, oh shit, I don't think I really would do that,
Yeah.
because I don't know, and the not knowing is the most terrifying part.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, what if it's Katie Holmes? You don't know her.
Oh God, no.
Right, right. It could be anybody. That's what I mean. It could be anyone. We don't
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah, yes, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not going to be some
So,
stranger. It's like, oh, yeah, Jans Vanderbeek has died. It's like, what?
yeah,
Because you pressed the
yeah,
button. No, man. I'm not having that on my conscience.
yeah,
No, sorry, Bob.
yeah. So, that was really, really shocking to me that a scene a scene one single scene in this movie could change my opinion about pushing the button or not,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
was which was really terrifying and shocking.
Yeah. So Arthur says to Norma, do you know me? And she says, yes, better than you know yourself. And he says, do you know our son? And she says, yes. basically implying, you know us, it ain't going to be us. So why do we care? Which was your whole thing from before, right? And it's like, and so Norma's just sitting there and then impulsively she just presses the button. And Arthur's sitting there and he's just looking at her and she's like, it's just a box. And it's like, and thus begins the movie. Thoughts?
It's more than just a box. Sometimes the best offer that you can be given in life has strings. And when Norma pushed the button, I was like, "Oh my god." Watching the proverbial shoe drop in this movie is going to be the most entertaining thing, but because the writer and the director of this film has made these characters so endearing and so lovable, what happens next to these people is going to be terrifying
Exactly.
in the most interesting way that this film could achieve it. And I was down for the ride, but I was genuinely terrified for these people because I like these people.
Right, right. So the writer has set it up so that you really like these people and you understand why they made the choice. Maybe I wouldn't make the choice, but you know what? It's like, yeah, I get it. I get why they would. They're not bad people. He set them up as they're not actually bad people. So you forgive them. And then all the shit which you are so fucking not expecting in this movie happens to them. And you're like, but no, no. So it's just a testament to this guy's writing. So
Mhm.
the next
Yeah,
scene
yeah, absolutely.
is the police are called to a residence. We've never seen this residence. We don't know who these people are. And a husband has shot the wife and taken off with a briefcase. And the police raid the house and they find the wife. The wife is shot and they find a little girl padlocked in the bathroom. And it's a bit of a diver because you're like, what? But it's interesting how it's edited. As soon as she presses the red button on the box, we switch to somebody's been killed. So you gotta, the director was hopefully wanting you to put two and two together to say this is matching up and this is gonna filter through and you're gonna find out all this, like how this entangles at the end. But I thought it was a really good way to edit it.
Yeah, for me that was cause and effect because the movie set us up with a choice. They made our two main characters ponder about that choice, and as an audience member, we show the effects of the character's choice in this movie, and it's a really really great way to show to the audience that, oh no, this is not just a button. That pushing this button really has consequences, and they're fucking horrible and they're bad.
Yeah, really bad. So Arlington shows up at Norma and Arthur's house and they're like, what? Because they didn't think anybody would know if they pressed the button. So this freaks them out even more. He shows up at their house and he gives them the briefcase with the money in it. And he goes, here's your $1 million. And he takes the box and he says, now going to reprogram it for the next couple. And don't worry, you're not going to know who they are. Now, Arthur freaks out because from the beginning, he was like, this is not real. He freaks out. He looks at it, is like, fuck, it looks like real money. And he tries to give the money back. And Arlington is just like, well, that's your money now. But Arthur is now freaking out and he ends up getting Arlington's number plate from the car. But it's funny because it's like, here's your money. Why would you try to give it back? I don't know. Hey.
That was instant regret. That was him feeling
Mm,
instant regret for what he's done, and that happens often when
mm,
people make choices on a whim.
yeah.
Because when you make a choice on a whim, that's instant gratification.
Hmm.
But instant gratification can only take you so far if you are a specific type of person. If you are a person who actually cares, instant gratification will do exactly, it'll make you feel better in a moment, but that moment's not going to last forever. And after that moment passes, depending on the situation, you try and do the right thing, and that's what happened there with him trying to return the money that he was given after his wife pushed the button.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right about that. It's like instant gratification, and then therefore comes instant regret. So,
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
instant regret.
So we go back to the police, and we find out that the husband of the woman who was shot works at NASA. Oh, oh my God, Arthur works at NASA. What are the odds? What are the odds he works at NASA? So this is a bit of a long scene, but I'm going to get through it as quickly as I can. We go back to Arthur and Norma, and he gives her the prosthetic foot that he's been making at work, and now she can walk without a limp. And she looks at him with tears in her eyes and says, "It doesn't hurt anymore." And it's just really sweet. It's just really sweet. It shows that they love each other. They're not bad people. So you're not constantly going, "Well, fuck you, you've just killed someone." You actually like genuinely like these people. So they end up going to a party, and Arthur is picked to grab like a mystery gift in front of everyone. And he sees one of Norma's students, the one that asked her, "Can we see your foot?" The dickhead. He's working as a waiter, and he holds up the peace sign. And Arthur is just like, okay, like it's just a fucking weird thing to do. Arthur picks one of the mystery boxes, and he picks a plain box, which I thought was weird. And then when he opens it, it's a photo of Arlington, the guy that gave them the box. So that's even weirder. It's like, what? And that's all it is. It's just a picture of Arlington. So then he ends up giving the license plate number to Norman's dad, who is a cop, to run it. Right now, he doesn't know that there's anything wrong with this, because he's like, who is this guy? Where is he getting the money from? What's in it for him? Like, I would probably do the same thing. Now, Norma is told at the party she has a phone call out the back. And while on the way, the guy she's with that's told her she has a phone call stops and kind of zones out for a minute and then gets a nosebleed and then kind of forgets where he is and why he's there. And Norma's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." So he walks away, and you're like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. She answers the phone, and it's Arlington. And he says he knows Arthur is running his license plate and there's going to be consequences. And you're like, but he literally just did that. Like, how does Arlington know what's happened when he's not even there? Anyway, she asks, what does she have to do now? And he says to listen to her conscience and do what it says. And you're kind of like, oh no. Like, that's not the answer that you want. So Arthur hears about the kid that made fun of Norma's foot in class, and it's the one that gave him the peace sign. And he looks at him, and the boy just starts laughing at him. And honestly, if you've seen this movie, you just want to punch this kid in the face. I wanted to drown this kid when I saw him laughing. Arthur pulls him outside, yelling at him, goes to punch him. And the kid is still laughing hysterically until he just dead ass stops, zones out for a minute, has a nosebleed, and then comes to, as if like he was just like a zombie for a second. And then he has no idea what's going on. And as they leave in the car, Walter is looking in his rearview mirror, and he sees another one of the waiters giving him the peace sign. And he's like, what the fuck? I know that was a long scene, but that legitimately was one fucking scene. So as I take a drink, thoughts?
The kid that made fun of Norma's foot in the classroom from earlier, and this kid being at the party that Norma and Arthur are at was really really frustrating to me. And I agree with Dean. When this kid made fun of Norma's foot, I would have fucking drowned him in a fucking lake right away. But from a storytelling perspective, I like these people having these nosebleeds and interacting with Arthur and Norma throughout the movie really didn't work for me in a sense, because I just found it really fucking weird. And it was actually in this moment when I kind of figured out where the writer and the director were taking us. And I kind of feel that this movie is a fascinating concept, but I kind of feel where they take it is kind of fucking. It's great, but it's kind of crazy.
Is
Like
it,
like
it it's
like
it's like an episode of the Twilight Zone.
yeah. Like I really feel that this story needed a little bit more propping up and a little bit more uh 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 context.
Mm. No, it's an
And
X-Files episode. That's what it is.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for
Mm.
saying that. It's an X Files episode, and if you guys have seen the X Files, every every X Files episode has no answers.
Oh, don't get me
And
started. You know
yeah,
I fucking hate that shit.
yes, and I think that that was the most frustrating thing about this movie, um, and that really disappointed me in the long run. If I have to have a definitive thought about this movie.
Oh, you thought it didn't have an answer?
No. I don't like the way that that some of the storytelling was done
Okay.
in this movie. I don't like how some of the pieces came together.
Oh, okay. I get you, I get you.
What I mean by pieces is the people with the nosebleeds. I'm like,
Mm.
I think I know what they are, but
Yeah.
I would have preferred some concrete answer to, okay, like it's good for your audience to have questions, but at some point you have to explain things. And I'm like, this movie just expects you to go with it at a certain point.
They did
And
explain them,
I
though.
okay, so maybe I missed that.
Alright, we'll get
So
to it, we'll
so
get to it, we'll get to it, we'll get to it.
maybe I missed that.
So they get home from the party, and, Arthur drives Dana, the babysitter, home. So they're in the car, and during the ride, she's acting really weird, like saying he needs to look into the light, like just weird shit. And he's just like, okay. And then she zones out for a second. She passes out. Arthur doesn't know what to do. And because he's driving her to a hotel that she's living at. And she wakes up, and as soon as she wakes up, she's frantic. And she's telling him he's not safe here, and there's only one person who can save you. Look in the mirror, you'll see. And he's like, wait, what? And he grabs her driver's license, and he sees that there's another name on her driver's license, Sarah Matthews, but she's told them her name is Dana. And there's a completely different like city that she said that she's lived in. So she's just lied about who she is, and he just can't work out why. This part I thought was really creepy. She goes into the hotel and every single fucking person stares at her. Every single person turns and just looks at her like deadpan. And she walks and she's visibly like scared. She walks down the hallway to her room. All the doors open as she's walking down the hallway, and people poke their heads out and they just stare at her. And you're just like, oh my God, are these people going to jump her? It was really creepy. She frantically returns to her room, closes the door, and we see she has a map of America with pins in certain places and photos of Norma and Walter, her son. And then on the TV in the background is basically a segment on Are We Alone in the Universe? And it pairs really well with the scene of as soon as she gets out of the car, we hear this TV segment and it's on in the background. If you listen to what it's saying, it's actually like talking about kind of what the movie is. I thought that again, the editing and the writing was really well done in this scene, and I thought it was really creepy. Thoughts?
That was really that was my favorite scene in the movie because it kind of confirmed to me what the fuck was going on here and who the people were behind the box. It was aliens. Because
Right,
I'm like
right.
I was like, yes, yes, I
I got
figured it
it.
out. I figured it out. And I kind of figured that all these people with nosebleeds were people that were had contact with the aliens, but for some reason, these people were forced to be working for the aliens in some aspect. So that's why they had the nosebleeds, and that's why they had the lapses in their memory in certain aspects.
Yeah.
But I kind of had to put that together in my head, and I would have preferred I would have preferred the writer and the director to be more transparent with that
Mhm.
in a more concrete way, and I just feel that they kind of weren't, and that was where my main frustration was coming from in the last scene.
Okay. Well, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Right? Yeah, it's coming up.
So Arthur gets home and he asks Norma, "Where did you meet Dana?" And Norma says, "On a school field trip." And then he shows her Dana's license, which says again her name is Sarah Matthews. And Norma's like, "What? Like, no, I've known her for so long. Like, how? Why was she lying?" So Arthur goes into the basement where he works and he looks at a black and white photo on the wall of like 20 people that have worked at NASA. And Arlington is in the background of the photo. So now we know that he used to work at NASA. Thoughts?
That was really creepy, and I love the way that the, director just did that with a small push in to the photo that we've seen previously. It was such a great way to reveal something to the audience. That was really great.
So Norma gets a call from Arlington telling her that Arthur better not be trying to get info on him. And Norma asks to see him in person, and Arlington says, now this was fucking creepy. Arlington says, I can see you. And Norma's like, what? And she turns to her backyard, and there is a random creepy guy standing in the backyard staring at her. And you're like, "What?" And then he slowly walks around the house and he doesn't take his eyes off her. Like he walks past all the windows and he's like staring at her. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's fucked. So at this point, somehow Arlington can see through the eyes of certain people he calls his employees. Now, at the moment, you don't know how, you don't know why, you don't know what the fuck's going on. But when we cut to Arlington, he's in this like strange room with like liquid moving up the sides of it. It's really sci-fi and it's really weird. You're like, okay, I don't know what's going on. That's what I thought when I first watched it.
Watching these people stare at Norma as she's talking to Sterling on the phone was really, really disconcerting. And, switching back to where Sterling is, he's like in this black hole behind this liquid. It was really, really off putting and really, really strange. But at that point in the movie, I had already figured out that either Sterling was employed by aliens or he was an alien himself. But it was just really, really odd
Mm.
in the long run. And it was really, really uncomfortable. It was really creepy.
Yeah. So the license plate we now know is tied to a town car from the NSA. Oh no. And then we
Oh,
switch to Norma and she's in the supermarket with her friend. When a panicked woman approaches her saying, the NSA is letting him do it. NASA can't stop him. Test subjects are all under 40, happily married with a single child. Go to the Richmond Public Library, follow this call number. And she hands her a small envelope with numbers on it, then she says, don't trust anyone, not even your husband. And then the woman faints in front of her. And I was like, okay, now listen. I love this movie because it's weird. This scene was the director's way of pushing the movie forward, which didn't work for me because like what a coincidence. You know what I mean? I didn't like the way that this scene was done from writing.
yeah. I did not like the way the scene was done either. But as you were talking there, I was like, there's something like I mentioned before that I didn't like the way that this movie was constructed from a writer's perspective, and I think I just put my finger on what I didn't like. I don't like how docile Norma and Arthur are.
Mm.
I would have much rather preferred them to put it together in their own heads. And throughout this whole movie, they are like dogs. Stuff just happens to them.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, is the thing that's most frustrating.
Yeah.
That they don't take the initiative to figure it out themselves, that it just happens to them.
Arthur does.
Like,
Arthur puts in it.
Arthur
Norma doesn't. She puts in no effort.
Ar Arthur does, but the way that the way that it's shown, the way that Arthur figures it out, he has no it's like he has no spine. He figures it out, but he doesn't do anything about it. He just
Yeah.
lets it happen to it.
No, that's true.
He
That's true.
he figures it out, but he doesn't fight back.
I think with the characters, they're both really docile. Like he's smart because
Yeah,
he works at NASA and
yeah,
she's a teacher. They're not built for Jason Statham. Let's fucking go and like do this. You know what I mean? They're just a
right,
suburban couple and they really don't know what to do. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know has someone died. They only have enough resources to do what they can do and it's in 1970, so you can't really do a
yeah,
lot of research.
right. Right, but I think that that is my main issue with the film, that
Yeah.
these characters are so docile and they're not more, okay, we have a problem and we're going to use whatever resources we have to figure it out and to get ourselves out of this fucking situation. It might kill us
Yeah, yeah,
in the end,
yeah. Yeah.
but we're going to try and fight back anyway.
Yeah, I get you. I get it. I get it.
And that's the most, uh, that was the most frustrating thing about this film for me.
You wanted more from them.
Yes, more from them.
Okay. Yep, I get you. So Arthur ends up going to the house of the woman who was shot in the previous scene with Norma's dad, who is a policeman, because he asks to go. And he sees a photo of Arlington on the table. And it says that he's the public relations manager at Langley. And so he's kind of starting to put the pieces together. He also sees a Polaroid of a document that says Human Resources Exploitation Program with a call number written under it. We don't know what this is, but he takes it, he pockets it. Norman now enters, this is another creepy scene. Norman now enters the library because she was told, go to the library. She's at the library and is, again, the same shit. She walks in and she's watched by like every single person in there. Arthur enters, but they don't know each other is in the library. He enters and they both follow the call numbers, and his one goes to a book in the library. And it's a book called The Lightning Book. And it's so funny. As soon as he picks up the book, the entire like everybody in the library just looks in his direction as if they somehow know that he's picked up this book. And inside, he finds a newspaper article, NASA employee struck by lightning. Now, when Arthur walks out of the book stack, all these people are waiting for him and they follow him. And like, I'm talking like 20 people. They just follow him. And I'm like, oh my God. Norma's not, no, we'll switch back to Norma because we cut between Arthur and Norma. Norma's numbers lead her to a film reel, which she plays and finds that Arlington did indeed work for NASA. And he's on the reel. Now, the director and writer could have made this scene much better, right? Because we already know he used to work for NASA. We've had 3 like scenes where
Yeah.
we know he works for NASA. So I wish Norma had found something more. And also Arthur finding the book. That book never really comes back again. There wasn't enough information in that book to give information about anything. It was just the library scene was just creepy, but I wanted more. I wanted them to find more information.
Them finding more information would have been useful because I don't like how this movie splits up Norma and Arthur in certain ways. It's like they find out the same information, but they find it out apart from one another. It kind of really doesn't help them. It gives them the same answers, but it lets them come to conclusions by themselves. I'm like, how does that help them? And how does that help them get out of the current situation that they're in? And how does that help them deal with with the overall decision that they made of pushing the button? It kind of doesn't.
True. That's true.
So again, again, that feeds into my issue with this main film in the way that Norma and Arthur were constructed and the fact that they're docile and they don't fight back.
So Arthur is trying to find his way out of the library and he can't find the exit and he's followed by lots of people. And he turns into a big room with like 100 people and everyone turns to him in unison, which is creepy. And he sees a woman at the end of the giant kind of hallway that he walks in. And he walks up to her and he's like, do you know where the exit is? Because he can't, for some reason, which is not explained, he can't find his way out of the library. I don't know. He found his way in, so just go back that way. Anyway, and she kind of just looks at him and he says, you're Arlington's wife. And she says, yes. And he says, like, what does he want from us? And the woman says, he's testing you. He's testing all of us. And then the woman takes Arthur into a room where there are like 3 large, clear squares and they're like flat on the floor. And then she tells him, these are 3 gateways, but you may choose only one. Be careful which gateway you choose, for there is only one path to salvation. And the gateways kind of rise up in the shape of like square tubes of water. And Arthur's like, what if I choose like the wrong one? And she's like, well, you're dead. And he's like, great. So he can only choose one. Now, I like this scene, but it wasn't really explained why he needs to do this.
Nope.
Yeah, I felt that I
Came
yeah,
out
that
of
was
it
frustrating.
it came out of nowhere. I was like, why do you have to do this? This movie feels the need to keep presenting Arthur and Norma with choices. I'm
Yeah,
like, why? What's the
yeah.
purpose? Like,
Right, there has to be a
and
purpose, yeah.
yeah, and this scene just didn't seem to have any. I mean, it was cool, but it did nothing except except make Norma and Arthur seem like fucking crazy people and confirm to me that they don't communicate and they don't try to put it together themselves. It's
Yeah.
it's like they're so obsessed with protecting each other that they forget that if they work together, perhaps they can figure something out and perhaps they can do something about their situation.
Mm.
But that goes back to the fact that as characters, they were constructed as docile. And I'm like, I don't like that.
It's okay to construct characters as docile, but they have to
Wake up.
halfway
Yep.
through the movie not be docile.
No,
You
no,
know?
they have to wake up. They
They
have to
have
wake
to
up.
wake up, exactly, and I don't think Arthur
And
and Norma ever woke up.
yeah, and that was the most frustrating and sad thing about this film for me.
Yeah. So Norma is still in the library and she meets Arlington, and he tells her lightning strikes the earth 100 times per second, and a single bolt of lightning can reach temperatures of 28,000 degrees Celsius, 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. He says he was struck by lightning and now he is in communication with those that control the lightning. So, right there, it's like aliens. So, you're right, Marcelo, it's aliens. So, he asks her, now I don't know what I'm not sure what the point is. First time watching this, I was like, oh, but then, oh no. He asks her, what did you feel when you first saw me? Because half his face is missing. And she says, love because and he kind of looks at her as like not pity. She goes, no, love, because of her own disfigurement, and she thought how horrible it would be for all the pain she's ever gone through to be projected onto her face. And she felt this overwhelming love for him because she knew she would never feel sorry for herself again. And then she takes his hand. Then he kind of looks at her, puts his hand out, she puts his hand in his, and then she kind of passes out. The woman with Arthur, we go back to Arthur. The woman with Arthur asks which gateway he will choose. And he puts 2 fingers up, and it looks like the peace sign. And then it kind of sucks him into it. So when we go back to the party, the 2 waiters that were giving him the peace sign, they were actually saying like number 2. I wish that had been more because it's not enough for him to go, oh, which one is my salvation? Oh, I went to a random party once and there were randomly 2 kids that gave me the peace sign. I guess it's number 2. There had to be more in order for him to click into, I'm going to choose number
Yeah.
2 and be really, really confident about it. On that, the whole scene where he says, did you feel pity for me? Did you not feel pity for me? When she said, I felt love for you because he's so used to people pitying him for the way that he looks. When she said that, I thought that was going to be a turnaround. I thought he was going to go, actually, she's pure of heart. Like, she's an amazing person. She deserves to be saved. But that scene really didn't amount to anything. It should have saved her. Just that should have saved her. And it was a shame that that never came back.
It's a shame to me that that scene between Arlington and Norma didn't go anywhere. And I do like your idea that that scene should have saved her ultimately from her fate that she has in this movie. And I also agree with you that just showing your main character seeing a bunch of people flash a random number at him early on in the story shouldn't justify him making a life and death choice later on in the script. There needs to be more. There needs to be your character needs to put it together as the story goes along. And if you choose to make your characters docile, it just feels like your characters are letting the story happen to them and are going with the flow of the story. And I don't necessarily like that for stories like this. And it's just fucking at this point it really started to fucking annoy me. I was like
He should
I was
have
like
been seeing the number 2 everywhere. everywhere.
Yeah,
License
yeah,
plates,
yeah, everywhere.
radios, everywhere he should have been seeing the number 2.
At this point, I wasn't checked out, but I was starting to get there because it was really bothering me the way that the movie was trying to explain to us what was happening, but because of the way that the story was constructed, I was like, I know where you're going, but I don't know if I'm having fun because the story construction really bothered me.
Mhm. I like this. I like the way that this next scene was shot. Norma's lying in bed and she opens her eyes, and above her is Arthur in like the water tube gateway, and he's kind of looking down on her. And she reaches up, and as she reaches up, she pulls her arm back down, and his eyes open, and it's like this slow-mo shot of her rolling out of the way and just the tube of water breaking, and there's just like tons and tons and tons of water that with Arthur in it that just falls onto the bed. And it's just a really cool just think it's a really cool shot scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a really really cool scene, and it was shot really extremely well.
The deputy director of the NSA, Martin Teague, from the beginning Langley thing, he tells a NASA manager that because he's working with Arlington, he doesn't want to work with Arlington, but he's kind of forced to. So he tells a NASA manager that after Arlington was struck by lightning, he died, and he was taken to the morgue and put in cold storage. And later, a worker could hear laughing coming from Arlington's like unit, cold unit. They opened it up, and he was alive. He was transferred to a military hospital and saw we saw his body heal at a rate 10 times faster than normal. And cellular degeneration halted, which basically means he stopped aging, which was good info to know.
That was really cool. That was a nice way to explain that Arlington is like a vessel for the aliens who are not named in this movie,
Mm,
because that's who they are.
yeah.
But yeah, that was really cool info. But again, it would have been really cool if our main characters learned that.
Yeah. So the same deputy director that we just saw, he's speaking to Arlington. And like I said, he works for him, but he's somewhat like afraid of him because he knows that he's like not human, but he doesn't quite know what he is. And then we see several boxes in the room that's like the same box that Norma and Arthur were given at the beginning. And the director asks, why a box? Why are you giving people boxes?
I like.
And I love that. I think the dialogue in this is really great. And he says, "You live in a box, you drive a box on wheels, you sit at home and watch a box, and when you die, you're put in a box." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I never even thought about it that way, but that's so true." And then he asks, "What happens once the tests are done?" And Arlington replies, "He submits the data to his employers, and then your fate rests in their hands." And then the director asks how they pass, like, how do we pass the test as humanity? And Arlington says, don't press the button. And if enough of you don't, then the test will conclude, but there will be more tests to come. I love that because it was like confirmed aliens, and it confirmed that an alien race, which, yes, is never named, is testing humanity to see if it's worth continuing on or if they should just like wipe us out. And I like that. I like it a lot. Thoughts?
That was a great speech, and it was just a wonderful. It was wonderfully written, and I love the way that Arlington says, "Hey, we all live in boxes, and eventually, when we die, we're going to be put in the box." But I love how Arlington confirms to the NASA director that this is indeed aliens, and that this is a giant test to see what humanity would do if presented with a choice.
Yes.
And I just love that. But again, I'm going to keep harping on this. I'm going to keep fucking harping on this until this podcast is over. Our main characters should have figured this out by themselves, or been led to this. The fact that characters around them figure this out really bugged the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But I'm asking you, would you take my road in telling the story, or would you not do that?
I like the movie as it is. Look, I understand why they didn't. I think the director and the writer wanted to keep them as just like as
Okay.
they were, like suburban couple. I don't know. We don't know what we're doing. What is this? Like confused the whole time. I like that, but I also like what you wanted to do. So I think I would like your version, and I like this version as well.
Okay.
So downstairs, so when we're with Arlington, we go downstairs because his office is upstairs. The military are telling a line of people, walk into the light, you're going to feel your body submerged in liquid. If you feel a drowning sensation, it will pass. And at the front, there's this long line of like 100 people. At the front of the line is the babysitter. And she doesn't look like she wants to go. It kind of looks like she's forced to go. Now, the director asks where Arlington is sending the people, and he says to prepare for the next test in Massachusetts. And then he says, if human beings are unable or unwilling to sacrifice individual desires for the greater good of your species, you will have no chance of survival. And my employers will be compelled to expedite your extinction. And I'm like, oh, now
Uh,
it comes around. It fucking comes around. And again, it's beautiful dialogue. It's
yeah.
beautiful dialogue. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I absolutely love that because the writer and the director really doubled down on the message of this movie and basically say it's in humanity's hands. And it's all about choice. And
Mm.
and we have the power to either be saved or to be the weapons of our own destruction in a in a in a roundabout way. So I love that scene as well.
Exactly. You're right on. It's all about the choices that we make. And are we going to go with our selfish needs, or are we going to go with the greater good, even though we don't know the greater good, right? And I think that that's
Mhm.
such a an amazing philosophical got that word out question to kind of
Right,
pose to people. So
right.
Norma and their son Walter, they're basically kidnapped at a party, and Arthur is taken by the guy that shot his wife. So the guy that shot his wife, kid in the beginning, kidnapped him, and this is where it's kind of explained. The guy tells Arthur that Arlington can get in people's heads and control them, but hasn't figured out how to do it without the person not noticing. That's why when we see the babysitter and the woman in the supermarket snap out of it, they start panicking because they start like reverting back to themselves, and they kind of know that they've been like zombified. The entity has infiltrated the military, the CIA, the FBI, and NASA. And he tells Arthur that they kidnapped his son and they took him to a hotel, just like they did with his daughter. And the swimming pool at the hotel is a transport hub, a gateway. Arthur flips through a classified document that the guy gave him, and it actually has pictures of the three gateways that Arthur saw, like the three like liquid gateways. And underneath it says subject must choose between three gateways. Test subject is submerged for 60 minutes. Gateway transit analysis will determine fate of subjects. And the document is called the Human Resource Exploitation Manual, which was the same Polaroid he saw. So the people that Arlington is controlling, actually, it kind of explains it in this scene that yes, he's controlling it. Yes, that's why they get nosebleeds, and that's why they can snap out of it, because he hasn't perfected how to actually control them. He needs to control them because he needs familiars to make it look like everything is normal in order for the test to kind of take place.
Yeah, I listen. I missed that whole thing because at that point I was so angry at the way that the writer and director told the story. But that's a but that's a brilliant way to explain the nosebleeds, and I do like later on how the writer and the director try to explain the portals and the big pool that we see. It's a great way to try and wrap up most of your major concepts as we come to the conclusion of this film.
Yeah, because the booklet was written by Arlington, like via, because he's an alien, via his employees. It's all a part of the test. So going to the
Right.
library, finding the book, that's all a part of it.
Right.
The guy that killed his wife is still with Arthur. He says he did kill his wife, but he had to make a choice between her and his daughter. And the next minute, We see a man dressed as a Santa in the middle of the road in front of Arthur and the guy who's driving, and they stop. I don't know why they stop. I would have just driven around him. That was weird. They stop the car, and
Run
then
him over.
right. Well, I wouldn't have run him. What is? You want to kill people? Is that what this is? What is this? Yeah, just running over. No, go around him, Marcelo. Let's go around. There was more
Yeah.
than enough room. I would go
Yeah.
around him. But they don't. They stop, and then a truck plows into them. And the man actually dies, but Arthur is nowhere to be seen until we get to NASA. And a military team is about to basically raid the hangar that Arlington was in when Arthur walks out. It's never explained how he got there, why he got there, was he transported, why was he set? Like, none of that is ever explained.
I would have preferred it. This was a good scene, but it really annoyed me because if Arthur was in a car accident, how the fuck did he get from the car accident to the hangar? Like it just
Yeah.
didn't make any fucking sense, and it was really, really frustrating to me.
Yeah. When they get home, Arlington is there. He said this. He says their son is safe, and he's sorry that they pushed the button because he actually really likes them. He tells them that two of their son's senses has been impaired, and he can no longer see and he can no longer hear. Now you are presented with two options. You can live the rest of your lives and enjoy the money that has been given to you and learn to live with your son's impairment. Or option two, he puts a gun on the table and he tells Arthur that he can kill his wife and then his son will return to normal. Now, before he leaves, he tells them that their son is locked in the upstairs bathroom. And it's funny because when we went to the previous crime scene, their daughter was locked in the bathroom. It was exactly the same scenario. So we see that the son is locked in the bathroom and he's in distress because he can't see and he can't hear anything. So he has no idea that his parents are trying to get into the bathroom to get him. It would be so disorientating having your sight and your hearing taken away. That's pretty much everything. And there's it would be horrible. It would be horrible for anybody. Now, before Arlington left, Arthur said when he was in the gateway, he thinks he saw the afterlife. And Arlington kind of turns and kind of gives him a little bit of a smile. And he describes it as it was like the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. And Arlington doesn't say anything and then he leaves. So, what do you think about that scene about the son? And now they have to make another choice. So,
Yeah. Look. To me, it was ultimately frustrating because I, I really think that to get out of this at this point, they should have chose to not make the choice that they would have made. I would have preferred if they would have got some bolt cutters from somewhere and opened the door and actually live with their decision and actually do their best to live with their son's disfigurement. But with that being said, it is awful being blind and not being able to hear. So that me saying that is my first reaction. But what Arthur and Norma do is probably what I would have done all the same. It was just really frustrated because I feel as a writer, I feel as an audience member, I'm sorry, the writer and the director didn't endear this kid to me enough
mm,
to make me care.
yeah, I get it.
Make me care about the final choice that Arthur and Norma have to make
Mm,
in this movie, and the writer and the director did not do that for me.
yep. So they both make the decision to kill Norma. And she tells Arthur when he asked Arlington if it was the afterlife that he was shown, he smiled a bit. And Arthur's like, he did, didn't he? So I do like this. It's subtle, but I like it. So Arthur was shown basically where Norma's soul is going to go to kind of say, like, she's going to be okay and she's going to go to this beautiful place, right? And, if every single person that presses the button has this choice and jumps into the gateway and all that stuff, then it's kind of like the ET's way of saying, yes, you have to do this, but you've seen where they're going. It's fine. It doesn't take away the grief, but I like that little bit of thing. And the reason they make the decision is because their parents, they're not going to let their son live with like no hearing and no sight. Maybe one, but even then, nah. A mother would sacrifice herself for a good mother would sacrifice herself for their child's, for their child to have
Well-being.
a well-being and to have a healthy kind of life. So we now cut to another couple sitting in front of the box, and the wife says, "I'm going to push it," and then does, just like Norma does. And then we switch back to Arthur, and then Arthur shoots Norma, and the cops show up. But Arlington's guys take Arthur, and they tell him him and his son will be taken care of for the rest of their lives. So it's interesting. And that's the end of the movie, but it's interesting because we go to the other couple. As soon as they push it, that happens. And at the beginning of the movie, as soon as Norma pushed it, someone died. So everything is weaved together timing wise perfectly.
Yeah, it's a perfect circle.
Yeah.
It's the type of writing that Dean and I love, and it's the type of writing that excuse me if I'm being presumptive, that we strive towards as screenplay writers. But again, I don't like the way that the story was constructed, and it really took a large chunk out of this fantastic movie for me. And look, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I think that is what took a lot of the joy out of this film for me, and the fact that the writer and the director of this film made these characters, Norma and Arthur, so docile.
The other thing I really liked about the movie was that every time someone pushes the button, it it goes backwards. It kills the person of the previous person that pushes the button. So that's
Mhm.
also connected, like it goes backwards. So like this
Yeah,
new
yeah, yeah.
couple, they've pushed it. So then the next couple that push it is going to kill them. So it's like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying with being a Debbie Downer, but I really liked
Yeah.
the way that it was put together and constructed. Could it have been better? Yeah, it could have been better. But, we got what we got. Trivia?
Go right ahead.
This movie is based on a short story, but obviously the writer director had to expand it. So Norma and Arthur were actually based on the director's parents. His mum has actually a disfigured foot, and his dad actually works for NASA. This actually was really, this is the last piece of trivia. This was the most interesting one. In the original story, Button, Norma pushes the button and Arthur dies in a train incident when she says she was told that someone she didn't know was supposed to die. And Arlington tells her she never really knew her husband.
I like that.
Ooh, plot twist.
I like that. That works. I like that.
Yeah, that's why in the beginning of the movie, he says, "Do you know me?" And she says, "Yes, better than I know myself. Better than you know yourself." So that was kind of the change up from the book to say, okay, we're not going to kill the husband. We're not going to kill the kid. We're going to kill someone else. So I really like that. If you want to email us, you can at themixtapepod@aol.com. We hope you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe. Please listen to our other podcasts. We really enjoy doing this for you. Coming up next week is one of my favorite comedy movies of all time. We are doing the one, the only. I hope people know what this is. We're doing Jumping Jack Flash. Yay, yay, Marcelo, yay, Marcelo.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I love this movie. It's gonna be a fucking riot and a half.
Yeah. Okay, so that's up next week. And signing off, if someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must mean that they really love you. The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.